Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today, Bhai Harjinder Singh, we're here to interview yourself in order to get an insight into Baba Thakur Singh Ji's life. With the Barsi coming up again, it's been a number of years where we've still not got a biographical account of Babaji's life that people can listen to online, gain an understanding, realise the teachings of their life, and it's needed in an English vernacular, especially for the youth of today. So if you don't mind, prior to doing the interview, can you just introduce yourself, give us an insight on who you are before we go into this?
Yes, so my name is Harjinder Singh. I currently represent an organisation or publishing company called Akar Publishers, and I'm in my 40s now, so I'm an old man, and I've been doing seva for the last, since I was 16, so in some capacity or form. And I met Baba Thakur Singh when I think I was 18, at the time just before I fell 19, so I had an association with them for about 7 to 8 years, from what I can remember. We're old now, so the dates are a little bit muddled up, but so that's my relationship kind of with Babaji, and then seva came out from that with Babaji and the Taksal as well.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I think for the majority of youth, especially individuals like myself, Baba Thakur Singh were prominent in bringing us close towards Sikhi. And, the purpose of this is just to give an insight and for people to gain an understanding, especially now, today's youth. Some of today's youth were born as millennials, and they will not have had the darshan of Babaji and had the insights and seen their bhakti and their aura and their personification, the way they were personified by the Sangat as well. So I just want to go on to that. So I've got a series of questions, and when you're ready, if you're ready, I'll start going through them.
Yes, go on.
Right. So the first question is, it's just an overall, can you tell me who Baba Thakur Singh Ji was?
So Baba Thakur Singh was a Sikh, a great Sikh, a Khalsa, a Brahmgyani. So a Khalsa, a true Khalsa is someone who's actually pure in their living, and a Brahmgyani is one who's got wisdom of God. So that's what Babaji represented. And more recently, in the last few years, other Mahapurukhs that I was very close to, they actually went as far as saying that Babaji was actually an avatar. So what an avatar is someone who's already one with God, who then takes up their body to actually do seva on behalf of God. So they're sent on a mission. And that Mahapurukh also, so we all talk about Sant Singh being Shaheed or not, and that being the talking point to Babaji.
Yeah.
But what everyone misses is that this Mahapurukh said to me that they're an avatar when they came as Baba Thakur Singh, and for all we know, they might already be back and doing seva again, sent from God.
Yeah.
So they clearly indicated to me, some people might say it's just a hint, but I knew how they operate, because a true soul of God will never say things clearly like that, because they're showing their power.
Yeah.
So they clearly indicated to me that Babaji is back on the earth. And so it's been 17 years now, and I may have met them, I don't know.
Yeah. So
there's children that I've met who could be them reborn. But so the controversy about Sant being back or not, we're missing the point, because Babaji's possibly already back as well.
Yeah.
Because that's what these people do. They come for the benefit of humanity, and they're sent by God repeatedly to do different seva.
Yeah.
So the Shakhsiyat of Baba Thakur Singh as a Sant of the Taksal is also, the Damdimi Taksal is like a religious education institute which was set up by Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji. And Babaji stayed through the leadership of 4 different Mahapurukhs. So when Babaji passed away in 2004, I think on the publications it was like Baba Bahor, and that sort of signifies that they were like a great Mahapurukh, because they lived throughout so many generations of the Taksal. So Sant Gurbani Singh, Sant Kartar Singh, Sant Janal Singh. And the comparison in Guru Kar would be like Baba Buddha Ji, who stayed from Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji's time all the way to Sheme Padshahana.
Yes.
So I'm not saying Babaji was anywhere near Baba Buddha Ji, but as an institution for Sikhi, Baba Buddha Ji represents that. And for the Damdimi Taksal, Baba Thakur Singh represents that in terms of them living through those periods of time.
Yeah. No, I understand, especially with the avatars, that sadhus are considered nit avatars. They come to the earth for the paropkar, to assist others, and not for their own personal thing. And like you said, if you read the Kathas, it says that the Mahaprabhu can come and go as they please. They can come when they want, go when they want. So yeah, I can understand. You've mentioned Baba Thakur Singh Ji living through the life of 4 Mahapurukhs that have been head of the Taksals as well. With regards to that, can you tell me about Baba Thakur Singh Ji's life, their personal life, and what they provided towards the panth during their life? I will ask you later on about their daily routine under different Mahapurukh, but just tell me about what they gave to the panth.
Yeah, so in a snapshot, if we go like by the chronological dates,
Yeah.
So Babaji takes up birth, avatar, whatever you want to refer it to as, in 1912 in our modern English calendar, let's say,
AD, yeah.
Yeah, AD or CE,
Yeah.
But so that's 1912 they're born. So they're born actually in Pakistan as well at the time. Ejogal Bend, I think, was in Pakistan from what I can recall. And up to the age of 33 till 1945, they stay at home, but they're very bhajanique, so they're always doing Simran and Bhat. And even as a child, they were like imitating what happens at the Gurdwara in terms of Prakash and Sukhasan in childhood. So their family members have told us these, obviously, because they're very old bhajan. So they then developed a tang or a longing to join someone who's one with God, and so they interacted with Sant Guru Bhajan Singh in 1945 at the Jor Milla, the Barsi that they mana at Bindra village in Moga. And so that was the first time they had darshan, and then they joined the Dhamma Taksal in 1945 as a 33-year-old. And then as they did seva in the Taksal at the time, they then grew in prominence and became the Gurvi of Sant Guru Bhajan Singh. Now a Gurvi is like a personal assistant.
Okay.
The word Gurvi comes from the word Garva, and a Garva is like a pot of water, let's say, that has a handle on it.
Yeah.
And the Garva is usually carried with a Mahapurukh, so they can make the Hatsuchi wherever they go, so they can wash their hands. And so the Gurvi is like the personal assistant for a Mahapurukh. And to stay in the Taksal with Sant Guru Bhajan Singh, Babaji used to have to wash their clothes, make their food, and do whatever seva they were asked to do.
Okay.
And even Sant Guru Bhajan Singh, if you read there's this book out, that came out last year, which is a sort of Jeevni on Baba Thakur Singh. We've also done ours in English and Punjabi as well on akalpublishers.com, which is a short version. But Sant Guru Bhajan Singh really put them through the sort of rings of like not being allowed to sleep, being awake all the time. Yeah. So Sant Guru Bhajan Singh was very active in their seva anyway. Yeah. They would hardly sleep, and then the Gurvi has to get up first. To get to prepare like for the Ishnan, the soap or the water if he has to be warmed and things like that. And then the Gurvi has to stay up while the Mahapurukh's awake as well and carry on doing their seva wherever they go, wherever they're doing Katha, and be alert at all times. Yeah. So it was very hard seva. And when the Sant Guru Bhajan Singh was going to go to Sachkhand in 1969, they even said at the time, Thakur Singh, tu sade naal chal ja. They go with us to Sachkhand. Yeah. And Babaji refused that to go, to leave Earth, and said, I want to do seva of the Singhs. Yeah. So they had a jhana at the time to do seva of the Singhs with their own sarir, so to save the Sangat. Yeah. So they had an option to leave then, and then what the Mahapurukh actually said to them, Sant Guru Bhajan Singh, that you can come whenever you like. So they were actually given that bhajan that you can come when you feel appropriate. Yeah. And then so after Sant Guru Bhajan Singh, there's a slight sort of split in the Taksal at the time of who the Mukhi is. Sant Guru Bhajan Singh, this bhajan of Sant Guru Bhajan Singh recording appointing Sant Kartar Singh at Patna Sahib. Yeah. So the recordings all exist, but whatever went down, so Sant Gyani Mohan Singh took up leadership at Bindra at the time, and Sant Kartar Singh moved to Mehta and built a dera where Sant Guru Bhajan Singh passed away. So from 1969, Sant Baba Thakur Singh went to Mehta and stayed with Sant Kartar Singh. And because they were Gurvis together, they were still very close as well, Sant Kartar Singh and Babaji. So from 1969 to 1977, Sant Kartar Singh does like 8 kathas a day, 10 kathas a day, goes on bicycles to places, builds what is the current headquarters of the Taksala Mehta in that period as well, goes against Indira Gandhi in the emergency as well. So there's a lot of things going on in that period for 8 years. And then when Sant Kartar Singh passes away, they pass away because they have a car accident and they refuse to allow the doctors to cut their hair to operate on them. So that's why they eventually meet their demise in terms of physical body. And Sant Kartar Singh had already done bhajan that if anything happens to my body, then the Jumawari of the Taksal is Baba Thakur Singh's. Okay. They can appoint whoever they
So it was what Sant Kartar Singh's words?
Yeah, so Sant Kartar Singh's words are basically that if my Sarir goes anywhere, then Baba Thakur Singh can appoint anyone with Siraj Jumawari for the Taksal.
Yep.
So obviously the Siane Sikhs in the Taksal at the time, they used Babaji's sort of Jumawari to give it to who they wanted to. And Sant Gyani Janal Singh at the time was known as an Abhyasi, and Abhyasi is someone who repeatedly does Simran or Part.
Yeah.
And so Sant Gyani Janal Singh wasn't really prominent in that sense. Even though he was seen as an Abhyasi, he wasn't seen as like a leading light.
Okay.
So he's a bit gupt in the Jatha. He was there, but then Baba Thakur Singh is the one who made Sant Janal Singh the Mukhi.
Okay.
And Sant Janal Singh refused it, and Babaji then did Karare Bachan. And I'm not going to say those Bachan because I don't know. I've not heard them, but Babaji basically forced them to take the Mukhi Jathadari on. So Sant Janal Singh then accepts it because Babaji gets sort of cross with them. And that's the giving of a Mahapur because they're always in humility. So it's not about them refusing it or not wanting it, but they would rather Babaji did it.
Of course.
And so Sant Janal Singh then becomes the Mukhi. So we only get Sant Janal Singh as the leader of the Taksal even through the Dain of Baba Thakur Singh.
Okay.
And because Sant Kartar Singh's son was Shaheed by Amrik Singh, people in the Taksal and outside bodies and other Sants Mahapur wanted Sant Kartar Singh's son, Bhai Amrik Singh, to have it. And even Bhai Amrik Singh agreed with Sant Janal Singh getting it. So even Bhai Amrik Singh, when you look at the Bachan before as well, Sant Kartar Singh's alive, he was really close to Babaji, Baba Thakur Singh, Sant Janal Singh and Baba Tara Singh.
Yeah.
So they already had that relationship anyway, and they all knew each other, so they were never going to go against each other. But Sant Janal Singh also said to Bhai Amrik Singh that I'm never going to go against you as well afterwards, in terms of the Jathadari. So they were very close till 84 together. And then from 77, obviously, Sant Janal Singh leads the Taksal. But Babaji is always sort of Dera based in Mehta.
Okay.
So Babaji is always still seen as an elder in the Dera as well. So Babaji is always there. And Babaji didn't used to go that much to Amritsar when Sant Janal Singh left the Dera in terms of Mehta and started residing at Amritsar.
Yeah.
But when Babaji used to go, Sant Janal Singh would say to the Singhs, that's God Irabya. So that was the Satkar, that was the level of respect, and Sant Janal Singh would stand up if Babaji entered the room as well.
Yeah.
So there's two things there. One is them getting the start of them, but secondly, they're saying to the Singhs, this is walking, talking God in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
So that was the level of Satkar, and the level of vision of Sant Janal Singh to see that in Baba Thakur Singh as well. And then after 1984, we'll go into the controversy of Sant Janal Singh being Shaheed or not.
Yeah.
But after 84, the Jumawari falls to Babaji, but Babaji has to stay for like 1 year from 1984 to 85, incognito, let's say.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Because they would have either captured Babaji or made them Shaheed.
Okay.
So Babaji then moves around different houses and different families. I know some of those families where they stayed at the houses as well. So they stay 4 weeks or 8 weeks at one house and then change location. So even the Baba Khalsa Singhs at the time, a lot of people thought they were all Shaheed, and he was only 85, like a year later, that everyone found out they're still alive. Okay. So the year between 84 and 85, after the attack in June, it was very critical.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, the main leadership got arrested in the Barsi if they weren't already Shaheed, and then the ones who got out who weren't there, they had to hide. They had no other way of surviving, and then from 84 to 2004, for 20 years, Babaji had a critical role in leading the calm between the Sangharsh and afterwards as well.
Yeah.
And that's their day into the calm and rebuilding Akal Takht Sahib and other things. We can go into the other things from that period afterwards as well.
So I didn't realise, that's the first time I knew that Sant Baba Thakur Singh, so they remained a good Darshan Prakash. They stayed at Mehta all the time while Sant Janal Singh were doing the Dharma Morcha. That's why. Because one of the questions I was going to ask was going to be how we see all the prominent videos or the photos or everything during the Sangharsh, but where was Baba Thakur Singh at that time? So they were still leading all the seva at Mehta. So that's fine. What was Babaji's daily routine? What did they do? Both, I know you've talked about their Garvai seva. What was their seva under Sant Kartar Singh Ji? Did they have their own personal responsibilities? I know obviously they would have when Sant Janal Singh Ji was under the Dharma Morcha. What was their daily routine with regards to, I'm guessing they led Mehta, who was with them, who were prominent Sikhs with them?
I don't really know too much about that period, I'm not going to lie, but from what the Singhs say, Babaji was never officially the Dera Jathada. So that was one thing, so they're not actually in charge of the Dera, but they're always seen as a senior member of the Taksal, and anything they said with the Mahapurk went.
Yes.
So people knew that if they go against Babaji, then they'd see the results as well in terms of going against them.
Yeah.
So Babaji was still seen in high esteem, and whatever Babaji said went still. So they were just oversight in terms of the management of the data and things like that, and making sure things are ticking over.
Okay. So post 1984, obviously, you've said that they lived within different households, and totally understandable because of what was taking place with regards to the Indian occupancy of Punjab and Sangharsh that was taking place. Once they were able to re-establish and put the go back to Met there, what was their daily routine from then?
So it's because it's a critical period in the time of the Sikhs at the time, Anna.
Yeah.
The Taksal is the main focus for the Indian government at the time.
Yes.
To infiltrate or control it. So in the same way that Darbar Sahib was under police watch or even police barricades,
yeah,
Mehta became like that.
Okay.
So anyone entering and leaving. So it was quite hard for them to operate. So you wouldn't get new recruits into the Taksal in that sense, Hannah, in that period, because they were too scared to go there.
Yeah.
It's only after time, like it starts developing, or you've got different entry points into the data around the back and things like that, Hannah. So it still takes a bit of time for it to uncoil, let's say.
Yeah.
And then so 86 is when the Sarbat Khalsa gets called in January.
Yeah.
But when the Sarbat Khalsa gets called, this is what we don't realise, Hannah, that Babaji was seen by all parties as an unknown entity.
Yeah.
So they saw Babaji as just this cute old man,
yeah,
who's very shant, very peaceful, and is apolitical in a sense.
Yeah.
So how they actually got the Sarbat Khalsa called, because they couldn't call the Sarbat Khalsa to do what they were going to do.
Okay.
So he's done with the agreement for the Shomani Committee to do a Sammelan,
to
do a smagam.
Like a Virsas.
Yeah. So that's how they played the ploy, and allowed the government then allowed it to happen, because you couldn't do it without the government's permission, or that they just raid the complex again and shut it all down.
Yeah.
So when the Sarbat Khalsa actually takes place, there's no like open declaration, we're going to make a panth committee, we're going to destroy the rebuilt Akal Takht Sahib by the government. So there's none of that talk really. It's very, we're doing a Sammelan. Yeah. So when it happens, there's internals within the Taksal Singhs. Some Singhs wanted to declare themselves as the Jathadar of the Taksal as well.
Okay.
And taking that as the opportunity. So there's death threats internally as well to say, I'll kill you if you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Babaji then used that situation to declare a panth committee, which was 5 Singhs to lead the panth.
Yeah.
So those 5 Singhs were appointed, which was Baba Harjinder Singh, Mohammed Jal, Bhai Vasant Singh Zafarwal, who's still alive, who sold out, and Bhai Harjinder Singh, Bhai Tanna Singh, and Bhai Gurudev Singh Usmanwala.
Yeah.
Bhai Gurudev Singh Usmanwala was that Abhyasi that when he gets shaheed, the police officers and other people in the jail went on to testimony to say that they could hear the Mul Mantar emanating from his body when he's getting tortured to death, even though he's in an unconscious state.
Yeah.
So he was like really respected, by Gurudev Singh Usmanwala. Bhai Harjinder Singh gets shaheed quite soon after as well. Bhai Tanna Singh went to America. I'm not sure he's still alive. He might possibly be, but he's very low key if he still is, And Baba Gurbani Singh Manojal 93 gets shaheed. Vasant Singh Zafarwal sold out, and he's living back in East Bend in Zafarwal in Gurdaspur. But Babaji appointed those 5 Singhs. So Babaji didn't make himself the Mukhi.
Yeah.
Babaji gave, and that was Babaji's giving all the time to the Qawm. He always pushed other people to the front. So when you look at the photos of the stage as well, you got Sant Ishisha Singh, Baba Baba Jagdar Singh. So you got all these other Mahapurkhs on the stage and other people as well. So at that time, Babaji then they got them to declare off the stage as well the destruction of the Akal Takht, and they actually started destroying it on that day, because the rules was that first you attack the Akal Takht, then it's rebuilt by government funding.
Yeah.
Without any sort of an agreement on our terms. Because some Sikhs nowadays try making an excuse to say that Nawab Kapoor Singh and the Singhs during that time agreed with the Mughal Empire to make a truce.
Yeah.
But that truce was based on the Sikhs kicking their butt repeatedly, and the Mughal saying to him, have your area. They were actually given a Raj. We weren't given nothing when we got the Akal Takht rebuilt.
No.
We weren't given anything. So it's like it's a farcical argument, Hannah. People will support their Mahapurkh who did it and other things like that. And I don't want to get into that, but the simple fact is the whole Qawm was against it.
Yeah.
And everyone who did that seva went back based in the Akal Takht for Maafi. It doesn't matter in what capacity, but every single person who did that seva at the time went Besh,
Who was it? Sant and Sinclair.
Yeah.
They did it.
But then he
Passed away.
He passed away, but then his follower did it.
They did it.
They went and did it, and so
because Bob and Harjinder Singh, they all went and
So in some capacity, everyone did it, apart from Sant and Singh, obviously, but they all did it, and then so the Sampradaya still did it afterwards,
of course they did.
So they still did it, but so it was a hard period for the panth, but then Babaji after that, Babaji obviously because he's a Taksal Mukhi, they're still actually involved in the Sangharsh as well.
Yeah.
So Babaji is actually telling people to go out on missions and do things like that as well. And in terms of the Sangharsh, the Kharku leaders, because they were young and a lot of them weren't pre-84 Sikhs.
Okay.
So the pre-84 Sikhs were different because they'd been with Sant and Singh, but a lot of them got Shaheed and got Shaheed very early on in the Sangharsh as well. And they didn't listen to Babaji, and that was their downfall.
Okay.
So by 1988, 89, some of the Pantha committees on the ascendancy, and they completely start ignoring Babaji.
Okay.
And that's what leads to their demise in terms of political power. And in 92, they boycott the elections. Babaji said, don't boycott the elections, this will be your demise.
Yeah.
And that's what led to the demise of the movement.
Okay.
And Baba Gurmat Singh Monachal was the same at the time, saying don't boycott the elections.
Yeah.
And boycotting the elections led to Beyant Singh coming as a chief minister and whole scale just murdering basically Sikhs and destroying the movement of whatever power we had left.
Yeah.
So it's juxtaposed in terms of Babaji's then, because Babaji was always seen as this like quiet person, but Babaji never moved on their button. If they said something like Sant and Singh, they never changed their stand.
Yeah.
So I've got a book upstairs called Open Secrets by an Indian intelligence officer. Darshi's name is, I think, and in that book he mentions different Kharkus and stuff and saying they were all trying to do deals and things like that. Not in a bad way, because whenever you fight a Sangharsh, when you fight a government, there's always peace talks.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. At the time, people made accusations because certain Sengs were doing peace talks that they're government agents.
No.
Yeah. So you always have peace talks going on. It doesn't matter which party it is and what you're fighting for, because you always want a resolution. No one wants war. Everyone wants peace, really, because the point of the war is to get to the point of peace.
Yeah.
But at the time, Darshi says, he had the spin on different Sengs and different Jathabandi, and he could push their bells and stuff like that. And he says, when I go to Baba Thakur Singh, there's nothing there. There's no one I can push. There's no one I can point. It is, I go there and I say what I'm going to say, and it's down to what Babaji says back to me. Yeah. So he's actually saying, I can't say to Morecambe Singh, fill Babaji's ears and this is what we're going to get done as a deal. Yeah. He's admitting openly he can't do that. That's Darshi, the intelligence officer, saying that. And that's where the Sarkar always fell down, because they went to do negotiations with Babaji. Babaji didn't compromise on anything.
Yeah. Well, they had no reason to compromise.
Yeah. And then after the Sangharsh, after the 90s, the Taksal, so the Kharkus used to visit Mehta as a dera.
Yeah.
So even by Jagraj Singh Tufan, like they made the film, and they make Tufan go to a god and get vidya, but the filmmakers purposely ignored the fact that was the Taksal. Okay. That was Mehta when Tufan went to, as a young Sikh, to get education. Because obviously that was the attraction, because Sant Janal Singh, so that's the point that everyone's going to go to. And then after 92 and 94, a lot of the Singhs we know now, Gyani Parvinderpal, Buttar, Gyani Satnam Singh, they all came in that period or just before. Buttar's like a lot older, Buttar came in the 80s, But most of them came after that period. And then it's like an explosion of the Taksal as an institution.
Yeah.
So then you go to Mehta and there's 200 to 300 Singhs staying there all the time.
Yeah.
And the amount of Pracharaks that came out from the Taksal then for the next 10 years while Babaji's alive, and from 95 to 2004, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's like an explosion of Vidya. So that's what Babaji implemented. Then also to counter, so the Pantha Committee in 86, it said, we declare that the Shomni Committee is finished and we will declare our own Akal Takht and Jathadar and things like that, which they did do to an extent, but they never took full control of the system. So if that was declared then, and at Darbar side we have the Puri Reras being read, so the full long version that the Taksar believes, and Obrat and Bhutia proved that that's actually the full version of the Reras. So that's been read at Darbar side as well. So it's only till 97 that they stop it. So then Babaji then makes a conglomeration of all the Sadhu Sants in the Qawm and makes something called the Sant Samaj with Baba Sarabjot Singh Bedi. So Babaji, I can't remember Babaji was the president or the chairman.
No, they were the chairman.
So the chairman, and I think Baba Sarabjot Singh Bedi was the...
They appointed Baba Sarabjot Singh Ji to be like the president or the leader.
Yeah, the president.
Because my family's always been close to Baba Harjinder Singh. Baba Mansoor Singh used to stay with my grandparents, and they even said but it's really Baba Thakur Singh's role. They just don't want to be at the forefront.
Yeah. So Baba Harjinder Singh Bedi, like you said, and he was like the face of it.
Yeah.
And Babaji was the one really calling the shots.
Yeah.
So they got all the Sadhu Sants together, and they started taking a stance against things that were political in terms of the Sadar for the Qawm, so the calendar issue and changing the dates. So the Sant Samaj became a voice and a vocal point. And then critics of the Sant Samaj say, oh, it's all Sants who didn't do anything for the Qawm and things like that. But then when you look in the movement, it was the Karsevale acting peaceful who were supplying trucks, who were supplying food for Karkus. And it was in these dere, which are seen as peaceful, that the Karkus could actually take refuge and not be under suspicion.
Yeah.
So a lot of things happened, not openly, because that's how you run a movement.
Of course you do.
That's the wisdom of running a movement. They don't have to be all Karkus,
No, you have your armourers, your labourers at the back, you have your finances, same as them.
So I'm not saying that there is Pakhandi Sants as well, we're not denying that. There's a lot of Pakhandi Sants as well, so Pakhandi is a fake Sant, so we're not saying that they're all perfect. Yeah. But as a political voice, it was a good vehicle that was used for political purposes like the calendar and things like that, and implementation of Prarthana Maryada. So that was Babaji's day. And even recently, the Sant Samaj, well, it's split now. But Baba Harjinder Singh Bedi and his sort of political linkage with Bhai Harjinder Singh as well, the Sabka Jathedar, Kalka Jathedar, they went to every single jail in Punjab on the Bandi Shor Divs 400 Sala and sent a Singh to do prachar in every single jail in Punjab. Yet people say that these people don't do anything. Which other Jathebandi did that? Because I know Singhs who went, because I had the posters and stuff. So we shared them slightly on. But they quietly just get on with what they're doing.
Yeah, of course.
And they've never gone to compromise with Badal ever. They've never compromised with Badal. So that only happens with current leadership. But that was the other thing. That's why Baba Samson Bedi left the Sant Samaj.
They all left. They splintered, didn't they?
Yeah, so it splintered after Babaji as well.
Just based off what you were saying in the last answer just about Babaji's life, he said in about 92, 94 there was an explosion of Vidyarthis coming into Taksal. Now, one of the questions I always get asked is, the Dhamdham Taksal is an ongoing institution from the time of Siddhi Guru Gobind Singh Ji, which was set up by Dasam Pasha as an institution to give the definitions and Vidya with regards to Brahmgyan. Usually, up until that point, the Taksal's Jathedar has been the most prominent Kathavachak, and then it changes under Baba Thakur Singh Ji. Two things. One, why was Baba Thakur Singh Ji not themselves performing Katha? And two, who was, obviously you have an explosion of individuals who come to learn from the Taksal, who was teaching the new Vidyarthis under Baba Thakur Singh Ji?
So why no Katha?
Yeah.
The first thing is that's the Sikshiyat of Baba Thakur Singh.
Okay.
So the Sikshiyat was that they never ever wanted to be front of house, even if they were the true leader. So they never pushed that to be at the front of house. So their then was to always push other people to the stage, to give the video or the greatness to someone else. So they would put people themselves, push them forward. So even with the Panth committee, Babaji didn't say, I'm part of the Panth committee, he appointed 5 Singhs. So that was their and so they always saw themselves as a Sevadar rather than as a Mukhi in a sense as well.
Yeah.
So that was what they did. And so in terms of their speaking themselves, they stayed at Bhai Jasbir Singh Jahiru's house here in Derby.
Okay.
And I got there to the house. I can't remember if it was Guru Nanak Gurpurab that day. And the Singhs were like saying to me when I got there, you just missed it. I said, what? Babaji di Katha, 15 minutes on Guru Nanak Dev Ji. Themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. So because Babaji's operation and in terms of their daily jivan was not to speak.
Yes.
So just to read Bhat or listen to Bhat, but speak very little.
Yeah.
And even if you wanted to speak to them, you just have to listen to a Bani and let it finish to get a word in.
Okay.
So they just wanted to hear Bani all the time and not speak. So when they spoke, it always had an impact. And so them pushing, so as a Taksal Mukhi, it's like the accusation was while they were alive, they don't do Katha, the Taksal Mukhi is supposed to do Katha.
Yeah.
We've got Mukhis now, people who call themselves the Mukhis doing Katha, and what impact have we had now?
No, I agree with you.
By a silent Katha. So Babaji pushed other people forward, so at the time, Mokum Singh was the spokesman for the Taksal.
Okay.
But Mohkam Singh, what people don't realise by Mohkam Singh, he was always a spokesman since Sant and Singh's time as well.
Yes, he was, yeah.
So by Mohkam Singh, Singh Sant Bhai Jasbir Singh Rodde will push to the front in terms of speaking on behalf of the Taksal. So when there was a bayan to be made, it'd be one of those two who give the bayan.
Yeah.
Another Gursik. So that's what they did, Hannah. Because once you start speaking, you have to then carry on speaking.
Yeah.
You have to then go into meetings, you have to do other things. But on a Gupta level, Babaji went to a lot of the high command Karku leader meetings as well.
Yeah.
And gave their salah and rare. And I remember when Babaji passed away, Daljit Singh Bittu, who's a Brahna Karku since the times was Sukhan Jinda, was friends with them as well. Hannah. Bittu said in the Sikh Shahadat in the magazine, he said, what it's going to be missed is no one really knows the day for Babaji in the Sangharsh with the leadership.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of the advice and everything else. So even Sukhan Jinda, when you look at their letters, they were following Babaji's advice till the last, and Babaji even did their sanskar and girya and gave their chole for their sanskar as well. Hannah. So in terms of no Katha, that was just the way they were.
Okay.
In terms of who gave the vidya, the Purana Singhs who were at Mehta at the time, so Bhai Sarjit Singh Sodhi, Bhai Harjinder Singh from Mehta, who's from there. So they were the two main vidya ustads, okay. So who got Bhagat Ji now in Canada? Yeah, Bhagat Ji's real name's something else, but I'd rather not saying it because there's like two names and a passport name and another name, but we'll just say Bhagat Ji, so that's the person who's in charge of gursevak.com, let's say, as I see, so Bhagat Ji was there.
Yeah, Paramhans, was he there as well?
Paramhans was not really a...
Was he on a star?
He was on a star. I don't think he was on a star. At Mehta. Yeah. Not that I know of. He might have been outside of Mehta, but not at the Dera, possibly. I might be wrong in that. Yeah. So obviously there's going to be a lot of other stars came about. So Bhai Kuldeep Singh Bhagat, Apna Bhavinder Singh. So there's a lot of other people who did Prachar, even Gyani Satnam Singh and people like that. So a lot of other people became ustads in the Dera, but prominently... Ladai ke Alevi as well. I can't remember his name, wasn't it?
Sunderland City.
No, Ladai ke. Ki other Nasiga Babbe neither. I can't remember his name now. His sons of the Bille, Hannah, the Kirtanis. Yeah, but it's from Ladai ke, Hannah. But he left Mehta and went back to his band afterwards. But when Sant Kartar Singh left Pindra to come to Mehta, he came with them, Hannah. So he was the Jathadar of the Dera at the time for a while as well. From Ladai ke. I can't remember what his name is now. So he's got two sons who are twins who do Kirtan, who are around, who live in Seattle, I think, at the moment, Hannah. So I'll beg forgiveness, I can't remember his name. But so there was Prana Singh, so they were the ones who given the vidya. But if anyone wanted, no one used to have Santya of Babaji, because the Taksal Maryada is whatever Santa you have to do 25 repetitions of those ang.
Yeah.
And then 25 repetitions from Gurbani Pardarpan of those lines. Yeah. If you know the Bhutia, I'm not going to get into it here. Yeah. But then if someone had Santya of Babaji, Babaji would only give Santya for 3 ang, and then you've got to read those literally continuously for 8 hours or 12 hours, and then go back.
To check.
Yeah. So it was really hard to get Santya off Babaji. Yeah. So I don't know any things who actually did get it off Babaji because Babaji was too strict.
Did they do what the previous Sant Guru Singh Ji used to send their Vidyarthis to, whether it was the other Sampradas or to the Thakur to learn Sanskrit, things like that? I know Sant Janel Singh Ji sent, especially during the Sangharsh, Tamil Morcha, they were sending Vidyarthis to Apne Baiji, Badanicola, they were sending them to theirs, to other places. Did Baba Thakur Singh Ji have a prominent Prachariks around him that would send their Vidyarthis to? But especially with the policing situation around Mehta, I'm just thinking, did they have other people around there?
I don't know, tell you the truth. But the thing is, one thing is definite is that a lot of the Taksal Singhs would go to the Nahang Dals to get Vidya of Dasam.
Yes.
So that would happen as a continuing thing, or they'd go to Hajur Sahib and stay there for a while. So that's always been like an interconnection between the Taksal and the Nahang Dals. So that was ongoing. In terms of what your question is, Jyoti Srupale Hana, Baba Santokh Singh. So Singhs were sent to Baba Santokh Singh. That was because of Sangharsh. Because Baba Santokh Singh, again, seen as a lovey-dovey Mahapurkh, not non-political, non-violent. But Jinni only seva kiti, pata nahi kya kiti, hai na? So the thing is, they looked after a lot of the Singhs. So Babaji would send people away from Mehta. In terms of Vidya, I don't know, but in terms of protection.
Yes.
And move people to different places and locations and tell them where to go. And even to the extent that, like, Aleta Lani Sega Nur Melia.
Yeah.
Babaji told one Singh on one of the nights, he said, there's a gun there, there's one bullet in it,
Yeah.
Take the gun and go and shoot him now, tonight.
Okay.
And the Singh didn't go and do it. And these are the things that, like, if you'd gone and done it, if there's only one bullet, it would have happened that night, but he didn't do it. So people who went against the budget, there was another Singh.
That led on to a butterfly effect.
Yeah. So there's another Singh guy in Hannah, who was part of a Karku Jatabandi. I don't want to name names because it becomes derogatory, Hannah. But he used to lag in the Panch Bihari at the time, at Anandpur Sahib. And so there's a data at Anandpur Sahib as well. So there's less stress at Anandpur Sahib as well. So outside of Metna, the other data would have less prominence, Hannah.
Yeah.
And so he used to do seva there in the Panch Bihari in the Amrit Chars. And he was close to General Lab Singh.
Okay, yeah.
So he was part of KCF. And Babaji told him not to get involved in the Sangharsh.
Okay.
So obviously his wife and family would say to Babaji, get him out.
Yeah.
Because obviously family members are fearful and then there's getting retribution from the police and other things. And Babaji told him categorically, get out, stop doing Sangharsh.
Yeah.
And he then went back to General Lab Singh, and General Lab Singh said, well, look, we've got all these new recruits. None of them know Jap Sahib off by heart.
Yeah.
What are these 50 people going to do every day in the morning when they can't hear Jap Sahib?
Yeah.
You're the only one who knows it.
Yeah.
So he goes, I got emotionally blackmailed.
Yes.
Hannah? Not by General Lab Singh, but by the situation, Hannah.
Yeah.
So he was in a tug of war. So he then decided to carry on. So he carries on, and then he gets arrested and he gets tortured. And when he's getting tortured, all he thinks of all the time is Papi karam kamab de kar de hai hai. And this is direct Bachchan to me, so I know this Gursikh, and he's told me himself. And he said, then I realised that I should have listened to Babaji.
Yeah, of course.
And then he stopped doing it, Hannah. So it's not what people don't realise, everyone has their function in the Qawm. So Babaji sent people to kill people as well.
Yeah.
And we know that. And even Pabik Bachchan, we see in Gursikhs who are still alive that have been given seva to do certain things in the future.
Yeah.
So it's not that Babaji was not pro-violence. Babaji was a silent assassin.
Understandable, yeah. Well, that's no. One of the questions I was going to ask you was about how did Babaji hold the panth together during the Sangharsh. Now I can see that going on to be a big topic, so I'm going to leave that here, and you've touched on those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But I think that would be worth pursuing as a separate topic altogether and a separate talk. I didn't realise. I never realised. I've read the books and things, but I didn't realise how prominent they were with regards to the ins and outs of the Karkul movement, especially during those years. And I find it really fascinating that they did that, only because I know the level of security and protections, around Mehdi at the time, and around every movement that Babaji was doing, because I know what it's like within the police force where you deal with Joe Bloggs. And they're going, well, he's gone here today, or he's using this card today, he's doing that. The amount of eyes that were on Babaji at the time was immense, so it must have been incredibly difficult for them to do that as well.
There was a case of a Sangha in 1999, I think it was.
Yeah.
If I get my dates right. And this Sangh was a Karku in 1999. So he's linked in with different Karku Jathabandiya and he's doing seva.
Yeah.
So he's being pursued by the police.
Yeah.
The police are in his pursuit. He comes to Mehta through the front gate. He gets into the dera and Babaji tells him, go and escape through the back.
Okay.
So he's escaped already. He's got out through the back. So he's gone.
Yeah.
They've got him out. And the police come to the dera and the police start saying, where is the Sangh? We've been looking for him. He came in here and all this. Babaji starts going crazy to the police.
Yeah.
So you want to do the last year? You want to search the dera?
Yeah.
Go on then. Open all the doors. Go on, search where you want. Go on absolutely crazy to the police, shouting at them, screaming at them, saying, go on then, do the last year, go on, search what you want, go on, you think you are, go on, do what you want. And he's already got the Sangh out.
Yeah, because they knew
the Sangh's gone. So we can talk about these things now, because Babaji's now gone, Hannah. Even Bhai Jagtar Singh Hawara, when he escaped from jail, he was coming to see Babaji. Only Hawara can say if he did Bachchan or not, but he came to see Babaji, I know that 100%, while he was on the run from jail, Hannah. So there's a lot of things that went on that only those Sanghs, and it gets a bit complicated because certain things we can't still mention because of the policing
risks to individuals, you can't do it. I think that would be a fascinating talk in itself. Can you tell us, right, there's one of the things with the Sangharsh that I will cover. For years and years, I've heard about a relationship between KPS Gill and Bob Thakur Singh, and that, there were many people who said there was a relationship together, that, they knew each other or something went on. Can you elaborate on anything to do with that?
The first thing is, KPS Gill's written a book.
Yes.
No, it's a falsehood. KPS Gill only died a few years ago.
Yeah.
Did KPS Gill ever go on record to say he had any relationship with Baba Thakur Singh?
No, he didn't. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you another reason why you wouldn't do that. If myself was writing a book about what I did in the job, I would not talk about those people who either did help me or didn't help me. If it was a bad thing that somebody did and it went against me, as I tried to recruit someone and go,
Can I completely understand that, and I agree with where your point's going. But the secondary point to that is Babaji passes away and KPS Gill outlives them.
Yeah.
So KPS Gill could have said it afterwards.
He could have.
Because you know, in terms of the source.
I agree. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The source is burnt. Then,
the source is gone.
Yeah. But the thing is, in terms of that accusation.
Yeah.
Firstly, people made multiple accusations against Babaji.
Yeah.
Look at Harjinder Singh Sandhu. Yeah. Look at the accusations against him. And it's only this year, through the internet and through interviews with people who are close to him, that everyone's now realising the truth of Sandhu and Sandhu's doing. Yeah. And that same Sandhu, Babaji knew that.
Babaji said
Babaji lit his funeral fire.
Yeah.
Babaji went to every Barsi of Sandhu's after he got Shaheed as well. So Babaji knew Sandhu was in the right.
Yeah.
But if the Sikhs didn't want to listen, that was their issue at the time, because they're the ones who killed him.
Yeah.
In terms of the KPS Gill guy, basically, you want to make an accusation to destabilise someone, and there's no evidence to it. So by Morecambe Singh, from what I know, he goes on record to say KPS Gill came, we gave him milk, and he left.
That's right.
Yeah. Now there's a thing in Maryada which is called Atithi Maryada. And Atithi Maryada is anyone comes to your house, it's your enemy or your guest.
You treat them the same.
You treat them the same.
The story of Baba Singh Jinaga comes to my mind then.
Yeah. So that's the Maryada. But on that day, Babaji was not at Mehta.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Babaji is not even present in the Dera. Secondly, if KPS Gill enters the Dera, well, people don't realise how many times did the Punjab police enter Mehta and open fire. So if KPS Gill walks in there, you go to him and you approach him so he doesn't open fire, you're going to get more Singhs killed. Yeah. So they approached him, they sat him down, they gave him Dod, he spoke and he left.
Yes.
But by his visit, simply, that's it. He used this, he was that, they did this, they did that. 101 stories come out. KPS Gill, by just visiting, regimented what he wanted to do, which is create a dog, I
understand, but it's a topic that needs to be brought up.
But Babaji wasn't there. They weren't even there. And the thing is, if you look at the intelligence guy, like Taro, Darshi, I can't remember which one it is. Yeah. It's not in that book, so he's not, and he's saying it's open secrets. So he would openly say Babaji was a mole or whatever, but there's nothing there.
That's right, but it's the same way that you get the stories of Sant Singh being he was put there by the Congress. It's the same sort of. To destabilise somebody, the best thing you do is a propaganda, and we see that in today's social media and all that stuff in other countries. But that was what they could do at that time. So I had to bring that one up. I just needed to. I know we're running for time. I'm just going to ask a couple more questions. One of them is, what are the most prominent stories or Bachchan that you can tell me about Babaji, even the Pavikar Bachchan?
Because I've written so much about Babaji on my personal Facebook, not on a public Facebook, because the Sakshiyat of Babaji was that we cannot talk about the miracles, because Babaji wasn't about miracles or showing them. Even if the miracles took place. So I found recently on my Facebook memories something that I'd written, and this was the simplicity of Babaji. So if someone came to them who was a munna, who were cutting their hair, they'd say, keep your case. If someone was kesatari, they'd say, take amrit. If someone was amritari, they'd say, read more Bani.
So what they were doing was pushing them along that path.
So they were pushing them along that path. And then in terms of their prachar to people, it was always read more Bani. And they reflected that in their life. So they came here in 1996 to the UK. And I met them on the first day that they came. So they came to Nanaksar Gurdwara Wellington Street Plek in Walsall. So I didn't go to the airport because I was 18 years old at the time. And we didn't have cars and things like that back then. And we had to do Tiyari for Babaji to arrive. So you've seen the photos of Sant with Singhs with Kirpan out in Swagat. So we got 25 Gurbani when they walked into Gurdwara.
Yeah.
So that's when the entry point, Hannah. And then when they come upstairs, they sit down in the diwan and they sit on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And in the UK, most Gurdwara, the left-hand side is the women's side.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But at Mehta,
It's the other way.
it's Gurdarshan Purkash Gurdwara, the headquarters, the men's side is the left side.
Yeah.
So Babaji sat on the left side.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there on the dig.
Yeah.
So we weren't going to we gave the dig after an ardas. So Babaji came to the diwan, they did an ardas, took up nama, and I gave him the first dig in the UK as well, innit? But from that point on, the relationship was solidified, innit?
Yeah.
So from that point on, I tried to stay as much. I didn't usually stay with Babaji. I used to go every day if I could, innit? So they stayed in Warsaw, a lot of that tour, at Bhai Harjinder Singh Hiller's house. Then they went to Leicester, your city, at Harjinder Singh Roy's house.
Yeah, so
And me and Bhai Hardeep Singh Ed, we stayed at that house.
okay.
So there's video footage of us at the house, innit?
Yeah.
But from that visit, what we saw was Babaji, and it was really hard for Bhai Nishan Singh on that visit, because he was the only Garvi who came, because like shortage of visas and who they could call and things like that. And Bhai Nishan Singh literally used to wake up in the morning and read Bani all day,
Yes.
from morning to night. And Babaji, so we'd been told before Babaji came that Babaji, if they speak, you might not understand them because they speak very fast.
Yeah.
And Babaji used to just list apart all day long. So from morning to evening, there's non-stop Gurbani being read.
Yeah.
And that's all they used to do. And if they'd talk, it'd be very little, Hannah. So they'd only listen to Gurbani from day till night. And then once the PTC, the Barsi Kirtan started, they started listening to that in the mornings and evenings as well.
Yeah.
And then they'd play Sant, Katha possibly.
Yeah.
But other than that, is day and night, there's Gurbani non-stop.
No.
Even while they're on their manja asleep at night.
That's what I saw.
And they didn't used to really sleep as well.
I saw that at Guldeep Singh Chahir's house. I was
Yeah.
there, I remember sitting there, and they were just listening to Barney, and then they'd do the fateh while the Barney's going. Butchin weren't there because Barney's going, they were constantly listening to Barney.
Yeah,
And
so their Jeevan was living Gurbani all the time.
Yeah.
And what they did is they made those Sikhs who they're Garvis read that Bani.
Yeah.
And they knew that those Sikhs wouldn't be able to read this much Bani ever again.
Yeah.
There's other sayings who are Garvis who were told really Karre Bachan, like one of my friends was told that once they pass away, or if he's going to do Jalise, like 40-day jobs, he's got to wake up at midnight.
Okay.
And then he's got to do 8 hours straight from midnight after he gets up.
Yeah.
And once he's done 8 hours, then he can eat once, if that, or just eat like matiyai, then dukra, like koha or like donda glass, and then just do job all day again. Yeah. And so that's what he was taught by Babaji to do, Hannah.
Yeah.
And in those days with Babaji, he was used to sleeping 1.5 hours, 2 hours in the day, or 2.5 hours maximum.
Right.
So when we used to spend time with him at the Darbar Sahib after Babaji passed away, he used to say she would go and sleep, and he'd come back after an hour, and we're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, But that was Babaji's dent to these things as well, that they could read that much Bani. So Babaji's dent to the Qawm in terms of their daily living was to show people that this is how someone operates as a Gursikh.
Yeah.
We talk about doing 24/7, but they were doing it in front of us all the time. So Babaji's Jeevan was living Bani in front of us, but then when they spoke, everything became true that came out their mouth as well. So Babaji's then in terms of the prachar was that, and then they used to sing the songs to do the prachar at the Gurdwara, and they'd go along themselves.
But what were their, you say that, but what was their most prominent butchins? What were the butchins that people can remember?
Yeah, the prominent butchins is read Bani, take Amrit, do your Nityanem, do extra Nityanem. So the most prominent butchin was that. Yeah. Today it's on the stage that the most prominent butchin was Sant Janal Singh's alive. No, it wasn't.
That's the next question.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying though, but that wasn't their most prominent butchin. The most prominent butchin was to take Amrit and do Sikhida Prachar.
Yeah.
So the most prominent butchin, they spent their whole life doing Sikhida Prachar. Yeah. That people would do Sikhida Prachar, and then on top of that take a stance against things which are wrong in Gurmat. Yeah. That was the whole function of the Sant Samaj being set up.
Of course, yeah.
And that's why Singh Sahib Ranjit Singh was supported by Babaji in their Jathadari. So Ranjit Singh really feels their loss now. Yeah. And that's Saab ka Jathadar, because I've met him a number of times, been to his house and things like that, and he says Babaji held my arm throughout my Jathadari. Yeah. So he had them backing him. Yeah. So he could stand on a stage and go against SGPC if he needed, even though he's employed by them in a sense.
Yeah.
So he could do that in his capacity, but then we didn't support those bande afterwards.
No. Well,
and that's our own demise, for dislodging them in their power circles. But Babaji was with them all the way. No, so the prominent butchin was really Bani Paro, Prachar Karo, and it's Sikhi da Prachar. Yeah. But people make this out is Taksal da Prachar. There's no Taksal da Prachar. Taksal is a Jathbandi which is supposed to do Sikhi da Prachar. It doesn't do prachar that way, this is our way.
No, I understand that.
The Taksal's prachar is to do Sikhi da prachar. Obviously, we've had different interpretations, but it's not about Taksal. And the other thing I need to say here, Anna, so while Babaji was alive, some of the Taksal Singhs approached me and Bhai Harjinder Singh and said, look, let's set up a dera in the UK.
Okay.
So let's set up a Damdivit Taksal Gurdwara in the UK. And we flatly refused. And they said, why don't you want to set one up?
Yeah.
So they were talking about, like, let's set one up near Soho Road, footfall and everything else, Anna. So big Sikh community in the UK near Handsworth, Anna. And we said no, and they said why? We said, what are all the other Gurdwara for? But they go, we want to set up a Vidyalaya. We said, why can't you do just classes at the other Gurdwara?
Exactly, yeah.
So Bhai Baldeep Singh stayed at Taksal, and then I supported Bhai Baldeep Singh to set up classes. So Sant classes now by Thakur Singh, myself, Bhai Baldeep Singh, even the Guru Granth Sahib Academy from Malaysia, and there's various other Guru Sikhs now being trained up at different days at Taksal. We've got the whole of the UK under lock in terms of Sant classes now.
Yeah.
So that's happened. If we'd done one data, we would have been stuck in that data.
Of course.
But there was no existence of what we have today, which is Damdivit Taksal UK, Damdivit Taksal Italy, Damdivit Taksal Sacramento, or California, or Canada. That didn't exist. The Damdivit Taksal was one Damdivit Taksal from India.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because Sant Gyani Gurbat Singh Ji goes from place to place to place. Sant Katha Singh Ji does the same. Sant Janelle Singh Ji does the same. Indiscriminate of whether the Gurdwara is under a Nanak Sar or under a Radha Sahib or whatever, they did prachar, because prachar to Puratan Maryada they kar rahe hain. And that's it. It's a universal.
But the use of the name is wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
And I will say this today, and if they get upset hearing this, that's their own doing.
Yeah.
But unless the Taksal Mukhi gave you permission to use the name and call yourself a localized Taksal, I don't know how you can do it. Do you know what I mean? You might say this is Vidyalaya associated with Damdivit Taksal, Hannah, which I can understand. But really, to say that we're Damdivit Taksal, UK, or whatever it may be, did Babaji actually give you
permission to do that?
Well, it's delegated responsibility, isn't it?
It's like a stamp, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because the problem then is, if you do anything wrong as Damdivit Taksal, UK, whoever it may be, then you're doing it back onto the Taksal.
Exactly.
So Babaji gave me delegated responsibility for certain things, Hannah, and direct responsibility. And I'll say that today. I've never said this, Hannah, for 17 years. So damdivitaksal.com was set up under Babaji's auspices. Starting the translations into English, Babaji gave us our get to do that in terms of the Damdivit Taksal. So I was given delegated responsibility from the Mukhi direct, Hannah. And I failed in my responsibility of that. I will say that openly as well, because we didn't implement the work in the level that we should have done. So we haven't done the volume of work that we should have done. That's where we failed, Hannah. But we've hidden behind those platforms as well, because we followed what Babaji did. We didn't want to show our hand and come forward to say we're the ones running it, because that was never our point. So we've hidden behind the platforms as well, and that's been a purpose and function for that. And there's a lot of other Guru Sikhs involved in the seva who've done the seva as well, who've stayed gupt. But sometimes someone has to take the flak, and I'll stand here and take the flak for anything we've done wrong in that seva as well.
No, I can't say that. I can't even look at what you'd even consider to be wrong with that seva, to be honest. I'm going to have to touch on that last button. The last button that everybody seems to focus upon is Bob Thakur Singh's button about Sanjana Singh being Charity Club. Can you give your viewpoint or opinion upon what Bob Thakur Singh was saying, and obviously what the rest of the community think of those buttons as well?
So between 84 to 2004, Babaji, whenever asked, says Sant is in Chardi Kala. Chardi Kala means they're in high spirits, Hannah. And in the Damdivit Taksal Pothiyan and Gotka Sahibs used to be written for you to do Jobe Sahibs and Chardi Kala the Ardas for Sant Janal Singh. So from 84 to 2004, that was Babaji's own Khada De Bachan, Hannah. And they're in recordings and stuff as well, and Katha as well from stages that the Singhs were told to say. Now, in terms of the Taksal and the Mukhi, if Babaji had declared Sant Janal Singh Shaheed post 84, there'd have been a bloodbath. We saw what happened in the movement, Singhs killing each other. The Taksal Singhs would have turned guns on each other to become the Mukhi.
Yeah, of course.
So they avoided a bloodbath, firstly. Secondly, that's the first point. Secondly, those Guru Sikhs who say Sant Janal Singh still in Chardi Kala, good on them for believing that. I believed that bachan for many years. Because Babaji had said that to us, like Chardi Kala. But then other Mahapurkhs have convinced me since, and I will say that, to say Sant's actually Shaheed in that Swaroop. But I will still say to the day I die, the Sant Janal Singh is in Chardi Kala, and they will come back and they will make Khalistan. But I just believe it now to be that they'll come in a different body. But it still fulfills that bachan of Chardi Kala. So I've got no psychological dissonance in any sense of my Satgar decreasing for Babaji or what they did or did not do. because the other side is Gyani Pritam Singh said this to us in 2004 when Babaji passes away, that now is the time for Sant Singh to come. If they're the Mukhi of the Taksar. And obviously, Sant Gyani Harnam Singh Tumba gets appointed as the caretaker Jathadar. But even that, in December 2004, I think it might be early December 2004, Babaji's in the UK. And before they leave, they done bhajan with Singhs that I'm close to. So Babaji sometimes wouldn't say things directly to me or other Gur Sikhs. They'd say it to other Gur Sikhs, but they'd know that I'd be told. So what happens is, we all know in the circle that Babaji's talking about certain things and how on the stage of Metta, Sanjana Singh will be declared Shaheed. And that the person who gets appointed is going to be not correct in terms of their leadership. So we knew these things, but then we are thinking that...
So these are probably much the same. Okay.
So certain things like that were within the Singhs, and we were assuming that Sanjana Singh's coming back in January. In 2005. So December 2004, we're here in the UK, and Babaji's leaving, but we all know there's something going on in the bhajan that are coming out. And I remember Babaji, last time I saw them at Bhai Harjinder Singh's house in London, in Southall, they just stared at me. Like, they're just sort of staring at me. And I didn't stay that night for the flight in the morning to see him off. I left that night, but I'll never forget how they stared at me, and I don't know what they were doing or what was going on, but I knew something was up. So Bhai Jasdev Singh from Warsaw, from here, he just joined the Singhs to do Seva. So he went to India with them. Bhai Sukhjit Singh was from the UK. He went with them as well. And we were all like, what we'll do is, if it kicks off and the war starts and Sanjana Singh comes back, we'll catch emergency flights. So that was our thinking at the time. And then Babaji passes away. So everything they told us was leading to their death.
Of course it was.
But that's what a Brahmgyani does. They trick you. Because they speak in riddles.
Of course they do.
They don't speak.
They can't speak to you.
They don't speak straight because they don't want to tell you anything straight. So we didn't understand what was going on. And even the day that they pass away in Kakkar Hospital in Amritsar, and even before that, here in the UK, one of the Singhs refused to go with Babaji back to India. And Babaji said to him categorically, I'm going to die when I go there. So he was told certain things, and he was even told that and he's polite that they get ill in, which is in South India. So we found out this stuff afterwards, obviously, because the Singh told us. But so Babaji had already set up everything that was going on, and the other side of it was the real thing that we couldn't really. We stopped doing beintis, like to ask someone for something, So we stopped asking Babaji for things for 2 years before they passed away, because what happened was at Gyani Pritam Singh's house, Babaji started crying. Listening to Katha from Gyani Pritam Singh, Gyani Pritam Singh was talking about Dimapur, Sant Gurbani Singh. And Babaji started crying and said, because they said, look, we can't do seva anymore. And they said, we had ankar, so we had ego. We didn't listen to Sant Gurbani Singh when they said to us, go to Sachkhand. So this is the nimarta of Babaji, and so Babaji started saying that, and they basically said, Sanjana Singh is not coming back. And I can no longer do the seva. So at this point in their life, towards the end, even their urine, Singhs used to have to put a pipe on and things like that, and there was a lot of kirya. So Babaji was no longer doing Hatti seva themselves. So they were 98 when they passed away, and 92 was it? 92. So the thing is, they were sort of getting into they were being sad in the sense that we can't do the seva. So that's what they wanted to do, seva of Singhs, but they could no longer do that. So they decided to leave. So that point. What was the question again? Sorry, Cam.
Just with with the
budget of something else. So Babaji then decides to leave, So those budget we knew before that, even in Leeds, Babaji said to one of the Singhs at night in the hospital they were going to die.
Right.
And at 7:30 in the morning, the Singh's been on duty all night. He phones me, and he says 2-3 a.m. this morning. So he used to read Jap Sahib all night, and he said to me, Babaji got up in the bed and said, we're going to die. And he goes, I said, what did you do? And he said, I was in shock. And he goes, Babaji said, lie down. He goes, So he spent the next 4 hours in dilemmas. So he phones me for advice at 7:30 in the morning. And I said, Raat nikal gayi, and he goes, yeah. I go, don't worry, but they're not going to live much longer, So I'm beinti at that time. So we stopped doing beinti because we knew now, that this is set up. So I can't remember the years now between these things, these occurrences that happened, So we sort of knew Babaji was going to leave, but still at the time we didn't realise when it happened, And So the Taksal Singhs at the time made Gyani Harnam Singh, the Garaj Gari, which was acting just like they made him, and not the. So they carried on with the Sant Jarnail Singh, Chardi Kala Gal, and then afterwards they declared a Shahidi, whatever goes on. But in terms of Sant Jarnail Singh, I firmly believe they will come back.
Yeah.
And they will make Khalistan.
Yeah, no,
I firmly believe that. So being in Chardi Kala, it doesn't make a difference to me if they're in the same body, they're in a different body. I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
In terms of people saying why Babaji not declaring their Shahidi through the going back 20 years, then how did Sukhan Jinder go and kill Vedia?
Yeah.
Sukhan Jinder in their jail, I believe, something like in Chardi Kala.
Yeah.
And anyone it threw back to stop them doing anything, they weren't worthy of doing anything for the Sangharsh as well.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow Sanjanal Singh turns up and I turn around and say, I've been waiting for you. He's going to say, Tu Maria Singh Abisa.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you get on with it?
So if people are going to get on with the Sangharsh, they're going to get on with the Sangharsh. And in terms of Pavik Bachchan, certain Singhs have been told that you can start violent actions when X, Y, and Z die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certain people have been given sruppe.
Yeah.
Their parents have been given sruppe for saying that's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
By Babaji before they left. So there's a lot of things that went on in terms of the future. And in terms of like people saying, oh, Babaji had said, oh, the electricity is going to go, this is going to happen, there's not going to be Amrit and jars happening. We've had that in COVID already.
Yeah, of course we have, yeah.
And you couldn't get Amrit and jars. And again, in the UK, who did the Amrit and jars in COVID? It's only the Singhs of the Taksal, there's no one else. That's not to pump up our Singhs who did it, but only the Kalana, only the Dania. And that they did that seva even in COVID, and they didn't change the Maryada. They didn't say you have to do a flow test. They didn't make anyone cover their faces. They all drank from the same batta. Koi gaya, bimar kar. Koi marya hona cho COVID. We didn't have a single case. And we had people reporting it to the police that they're doing Amrit Sanchar. Kal jo gaya. Reporting Amrit Sanchars in a Godara.
Don't want to.
Anna?
No, that's fine. So, but what would you say to those good Sikhs today who are actually waiting for Sanjana Singh to come out of a physical form, the same physical form that they had in 1984? What can you say to them?
I'm not.
For me, I'll give you my personal viewpoint. For me, if that was to occur today, one, if I turn around and go, well, I was wrong, Sanjana Singh's here, because go to the khani up for her. My other thing is that it would lessen their legacy, because other people say, we had family members, we had all these people die. Where were you during this time?
Yeah. But the other side of this camp, look. So one of my friends, he started doing what a kid does.
Yeah.
With Babaji, Anna. So Babaji was such a Sikh that they do things that were very intelligent in a sense, Anna.
Yeah.
So after that butching of like we finding out Babaji's gonna pass away and whatever, Anna, I did a little ardas, I go, Babaji, ek wari mere sir te hath rakh lo.
Right.
So that was the only thing I wanted them to do, Anna. And they came to, I don't know which airport it was, they landed in the UK. And because obviously what used to happen, the politicians, everyone used to run at the front and sort of huddle them, Anna.
Photo lady.
And take their photos and that. And you won't find me in a photo of Thakur Singh.
Yeah.
You'll find videos and footage now.
Yeah. But
I haven't got a photo because I never took the photo.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to make it. They make Babaji in the Sevadar and make, you know what I mean? So it was never about that. I remember at the airport, Babaji came out. So they did their little huddle and whatever. And I'm standing at the back, waiting for them to walk that way. Like an arrivals, Anna. The mayor said, and they're walking past. And they just put their hand on my head in it. Right. So after that, I was done in it, like in terms of asking for anything. And then this Singh who's close to me, he started nagging Babaji. So this is true, and he's told me this himself. So he started saying to Babaji, make me something else, Singh. Make me something else, Singh. And you know how a kid does that?
Yeah, of course.
Give me the sweets, give me the sweets, give me the sweets, give me the sweets.
Yeah.
So he started doing this, and Babaji saying, Rande.
You know you can smack a kid.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Babaji didn't hear.
Yeah. But it's that brave, man. If you're close to him, I've seen Babaji smack people. Yeah. I've seen Babaji throw buckets of water over people. And like on the internet, the prachar is, Babaji used to nimrta na do painting and things. And I've seen Babaji beat people, give them proper slaps as well, like the person shaken, like lifting off the ground and things like that, But the thing is, so this Singh started doing this in terms of nagging Babaji. Yeah. And Babaji kept telling him, leave it. But he had Babaji Nadori as well for the prayer,
Yeah.
And what happens is he goes to sleep, and in a dream, something else comes to him and says, if you're going to be with me when I come back, you better be getting up at 4 o'clock every day, or you ain't nowhere near me.
Right.
So he gets up in the morning and he's shaking on her because this guy has got a pakka amrit vela.
Yeah.
So Han bachan ho gaya nahi, Han kitthon nikaluga. Yeah, so he can't get out of that, can he? So then Baba Ji says to him, he says, Kinda, ho gaya bachan? So they tease him as well. Yeah, so they tease him as well. Like, look, well, it's happened now, Anna. And then he told me, Anna, and like, how can that person say Sant Singh Shaheed?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You're talking about the body, or if they've changed body or whatever, Anna, in terms of the charity club. Anna. So for myself, on a personal level, till the day I die, I will still do job every day for Sant Charity Club. Yeah? And as far as we're concerned, Babaji said to us, Sant Singh is the Mukhi of the Taksal. No one else is. So as far as we're concerned, we follow that Mukhi. We don't follow anyone else who got appointed by the Singhs or anyone else, because that's what Babaji did bachan to us. So for us, it's Sant Singh, and it doesn't matter if Sant Singh doesn't even come back.
Yeah.
Sada hega Sant da bachan kamana. And that's us as followers, or you can say Shardalus, Premis. For the rest of the Qawm, it's up to them. Shaheed Saddan, Na Saddan, Na Kan. Asi re Babaji de naal. Asi loon ona da khadda, asi loon nahi haram kar sakde. Hana? So the thing is, for like people like that camp, what would you say? You know what I mean? The guys had darshan, Hana. Mana Vivek, Hana, Pratak darshan, Hana. But he's had darshan. What can, Hana? So how can he go to his grave without like believing, Hana? So, and there's other Sikhs like that who've had bachan, Hana. I didn't have that bachan. I've had Vivek bachan with Babaji about Sant, but I can't clarify what those are, Hana. But the thing is, for those Sikhs, Hana. So for me, Babaji never said to me, Saim Sarir or anything like that. There's no specification of that. So I'm still the Charity Clan, they'll come back.
Yeah.
And the thing is, some of the things that some of the Singhs do, like, Sant Singh come and lead the Qawm. Guru Gobind Singh leads the Qawm. Sant Singh's one of the Sevadars.
Of course, yeah.
It doesn't mean that we're going to do something ourselves or we're greater than Sant Singh, but sometimes in Sangat, kei chinja sob diyan niya. So we have to be very careful. So not everyone's got our Sharda, not everyone's got our Bhavana.
Yeah.
So for us to be declaring that in the Sangat sometimes, it doesn't look good.
Yes, yeah.
साडी घर दी मर्यादा होर हुंदी आ, संगत होर हुंदी आ. घर असीं जो मर्जी कहिए करिए, कोई कह नहीं सकता, कोई अंगली नहीं कर सकता, because they don't know what we've done, ना.
Yeah.
But outside we have to keep like a panthik मर्यादा as well sometimes.
Yeah.
So in terms of the Sant, and it's one of those things to put dag on Babaji, है ना. But it was like, you know, like even go back to the bachan, like, Mukhi Taksal the prachar नहीं करते, है ना.
Yeah.
Since Sant Baba Thakur Singh passed away in 2004, how many issues have we had in the last 17 years? The calendar issue.
Yeah.
While Babaji was alive, other Mahapurkhs started implementing the calendar.
Of course.
And then they went against the calendar, and it was the Puratan calendar the Guru Sahibs used. And then since 2004, Dasam Granth issue.
Yeah.
The upspeed of dodgy missionary pracharaks. Not all missionary pracharaks are dodgy, but dodgy pracharaks. And Babaji had all this stuff thamya, under control, and didn't allow anything to pop up. And if it did, he used to get slapped down immediately.
Oh, well, it's true.
And it was like an explosion, for us watching in the political sphere, how much went on after. It was unbelievable.
Bhai Bhindrawale says that in one of his Kathas. Says, you say all these things now.
Even Babaji, like the Shahidi Gal, all the Jathibandi in the UK used to say to me, ask me, because obviously I'm linked in with everyone, what's Babaji's bachan on that? Babaji's saying they're alive.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, we'll come and see him. I said, come on then. Yeah. And they never came. And then when Babaji passes away, they're the same guys doing declarations in newspapers and stuff. But when they were alive, Sada Babaji jinda si, all the jinde jaagde the kool tus nahi aaye. Ek meal di baat. To hon bolan jogge a na. But jad Sada Baba khada siga sade naal mudda phar ke, fir nahi tusi bolle ha na. So it's that thing, and I like political scoring. And it so bada nahi ga.
Yeah,
and it's not about Babaji, any panth di shakhsiyat, it doesn't look good, if we're just doing it for points scoring. If we're doing it for Maryada, then we must take a stance.
Yeah.
So people criticise me for things I've done against different Jathibandi and things, but we learnt that from Baba Thakur Singh.
Yeah.
That we're never going to compromise. As kisi de adeen nahi kadi rehna. We're always going to be independent, swatantra. So even the Taksal Singhs, they all call me a Nirmala.
Yeah. No,
I'm not seen as a Taksali. I spent one night, I met that in my life.
Yeah.
One night in my life. But my Babaji di Bani from 96 to 2004, for 8 years. Now only very Bashanti, so that was our relationship, and I never read Bani to him as well. Yeah, but I never read Bani as well. There's a reason for that, because I knew you made Bani fun like me. I'm going to be 8-hour duties, 10-hour duties, and the Singhs didn't let me go. So I was a bit sly as well. But they never refused anything I ever asked, and that's the same with a lot of the Guru Sikhs. So it's not that I say I was closer to them.
Right.
But a father looks after his children, and he always fulfills his children's desires, so I never got refused a budget ever for anything I ever asked for at my mouth.
Yeah.
The same things I didn't ask for through my mouth, and I regret those. But if I actually said it with my mouth, then I'd get it. Yeah. So the same things I messed up with, that I didn't ask for.
No, I can understand that.
But yeah, so but Baba Ji shakhsiyat in terms of Sant shahidi or not, Baba Ji ने जो किया ठीक किया, संघर्ष भी चलाया, प्रचारक भी बनाए. तो उस तो बाद ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ कोई चढ़दी कला ਤਾਂ नहीं होई.
No.
है ना?
No, I understand. Thanks for that. We've got just one quick question. We're going to close up because the question is basically we're doing this for Baba Thakur Singh's Barsi. Baba Thakur Singh's Barsi comes every year. We celebrate in the UK. Everybody celebrates it abroad. It's worldwide. But what are the teachings that we should be promoting at the Barsi, and how should we remember them? How do you personally remember them, and how should the Sangat remember them?
It's really strange, the Barsi, because if you look at a Mahapurkh, great Mahapurkhs, for some reason, a lot of them, 2 of them that I know did this, including Babaji, is they pass away near to dates of Tiohar.
Yeah.
So Babaji passes away in 24th of December, which is always going to be Sahibzade, Badde Chote Sahibzade and the Shahidi Diyare.
Yeah.
And that's when the Qawm celebrates those days.
Yeah.
So the Barsi started off in 2005. The first Barsi was at Nanak Sar Plek Godara, Wellington Street, Warsaw.
Yeah.
So myself and Harjinder Singh started the program there, and then he just spoiled out into this big thing that we didn't start it for that reason. I remember the first Barsi, it was really strange because we just did it because we wanted to do their first Barsi, not to make it into some international smargam or anything like that. It was never and because we'd lost something.
Yeah, of course.
And so the first Barsi was always about, we've lost Babaji. So anyone reads Panj Granthi near me now, I've never been a Panj Granthi near me,
Yeah.
Anyone reads, so Panj Granthi is Setan Baniya in Guru Granth Sahib, the main Baniya. But anyone reads any of those Baniya near me, I can usually say the second Pankti. Because I was around Babaji hearing those Baniya all the time.
Yeah.
So that's instilled in me because of it's So the Kriyan God, Siddh Ghosh, Bhavana Kriyana, Asadivar Sukmani Sahib. So those Baniya instilled in me because I sat near them, hearing that all the time.
Yeah.
So in terms of the Barsi, the first year we did it, I remember me and Hardeep Singh looking at the Sangat and saying, who are all these people?
Yeah, because we never saw when Babaji was here.
Yeah. But the thing that had happened, Camp, was when Babaji came in 96, the Sangat came in droves.
Yeah.
But because Babaji didn't speak, people stopped coming. And then when you go to a Sant's house where they're staying, you want the Mahapurkh to speak to you and say things, or do Katha, and Babaji would just be quiet. Or they'd walk into your house doing Bart, they'd sit down, and the Sanghs would get the family and say, you go and sit in the living room, we're serving you the food that you've made.
Yeah.
The family would be fed first, whose house it is. And then in that time, they literally might get a minute where they can say something to Babaji in the time that they're in their house for half an hour, whatever. And it'd be like a yes or no. Yeah. It'd be simple as that. And they'd be back out. So Babaji's Sakshiyat was about 24/7 job.
Yeah.
Do that, instill that in your lives, then you will be able to do things for the Qawm. And do Sikhita Prachar and take a stance. Yeah. That's what Babaji did in his life. And that's the function and role of the Taksal as well, to do Sikhita Prachar. And we all fail in our ayat. I fail in my ayat every day, Anna. But it's to get up and start doing it again and again and again until we get to that level where we meet such Guru Sikhs who've got that naam going them, and we even sit near them. We get peace, Anna. And that was the glow from Babaji. So in terms of the UK, it was quite funny because the Sangat started depleting. Yeah. And then Babaji used to spend most of the time at the house, and it'd be just a few of us. Yeah. No one would really come. And Babaji loved it.
Yeah, because that's what they want.
Because that's what they wanted. So they started coming out to the West more to sit in peace. So me, Sukraj Singh and Hardeep Singh went to Bombay, staying after September the 11th in December of that year. And Babaji was there in Bombay. So we spent 3 days in Bombay with Babaji, and it was crazy camp. So we went with them around the Godare, like in the Diwans, and he's like Sant and Al Singh. Yeah. So he'd be 20 Singhs with us, with Babaji walking into a Diwan. And the amount of Sangat in Bombay, they used to come to Babaji. And then I realised that Babaji, the shutti lena there to the UK or Europe or whatever it may be, to chill out in a room and just do a bihas and not be hassled. And so I realised how hard it was for them there. And in India, they used to have 6 garbis on a 24-hour system. And these were all young lads who could do seva, but they all used to get humble by one bujurg. So the seva and the bhavna, Babaji, even in our houses, like if they would want to give the langar out with their own hands, Babaji would, even deg in the Godare, they'd want to have to give out the deg. So the khalya, any umar chui hathi seva karn lage ho na. So that's what they taught, and so their Sikh is about, and the Barsi are about us doing that.
Okay.
And the focus of the Barsi shouldn't be the divans. The focus of the Barsi for the divans is for the Sangat, who's going to come in the evenings. But the focus for the Sengs and the organisers of the Barsi should sit through the Khan part.
For me, it was about selling my books and that.
No, but that's because of what it's become from. It's become this massive program. But the thing is, for the Prabandhaks and people organising, it should be about listening to Bani from day till night. And Sari Raat Jagana and hearing the job, because that's what Babaji reflected to us. Baba ji ने सानू करके दिखा लिया तो असी होनहार पुत्र ताई बना ना असी भी करके दिखा लूंगे नहीं तो बरसियां मनानियां. And the thing is that vijog's gone now, like 16 17 years. So like different people have come in, everyone fights for stage time, and I no longer see that Vishora, है ना.
No, it's not.
साढ़े तो रखदा है, है ना. And there's other Gursikhs I know who are Gurvees who still get darshan every month of Babaji in their dreams, and Babaji advises them. And even like you talk about Gursikhs like Shaheed Singhs, I know of Shaheed Singh Parvaz, and the Shaheed Singh got Shaheed, but he's still advising the kids till this day. So they don't let go of their Jammuwari as well, na? So they're still there in that sense. So Brahma Gyani never leaves. Their Shakti is still there, even if it's showing inside. Even like Baba Nand Singh still gives darshan to people in dreams and whatever they do, na? So the thing is, that still continues. But the Barsi should be about us as Prabandhiks. If we're organising Barsi, I'm no longer involved on a Prabandhik basis now. I've pulled away. But the people who do organise them, it should be about that. It's not about the stage time. It's more about actually living what they lived and getting that Vishora for God and that Vishora for the Sahibzade. They karke gaye sade ke. So Babaji, even the Barsi, the focus of the Barsi is no longer Baba Thakur Singh.
No,
the focus of the Barsi is the Sahibzade.
Which it was last time when I went to, which was Gyani Jangbir Singh did the Katha. Sahibzade and Champali.
But even the first time they came to the UK camp, Holy Bones Godara, Leicester. I remember it was December now, so we were staying with them. And Holy Bones Godara did in the camp part. For the Sahibzade, Shiddiana. And obviously, no more Godare, no more Maryada, Jana Marji Jab Sebte Bajanda, whatever the Maryada was, and Babaji on the Pog of the part. So Baba Harnam Singh Tuma was here on that tour with him on the first visit, and so Baba Tuma used to go and do Katha one Godara, Gyani Pindrapal, Purendrapal, Buttarapana. He used to do another Godara, so we used to have two divans parallel on that, so we used to have to split the Singhs for where we're going to go. And on that night, somehow we ended up with Babaji, we didn't go with Baba Tuma to the other one, so we used to get split up to where we would end up. We get the divans, or we do both and then come back to one. And on the Pog of the part, Babaji gave every single party of Japji Sahib and Maharajirana a srupa. Every single person. So that's like a teaching to us. So sometimes we become a bit too cutter. Kiasi Sade Tiar Bartiar Singh and Rola Kanale, whatever. Babaji didn't look at any of that. Babaji ni srupe by Saryande. So that's the Dhyana of a Mahapur. He's giving those people Lagan.
Indiscriminate.
I remember at Sedji Street Godra Wolverhampton, Babaji was doing Jor Sahib, and the Diwan finished. And obviously, they Bandi the Diwan this Mapti. And Sedji Street Godra Wolverhampton, it's quite big, the Diwan, isn't it? So the song usually spreads out towards the back and whatever. And I'm sitting at the back on the men's side. And all I see is all these Bibiyan, so the females, running from the back of the Diwan to the front. I'm like, what's going on here? And what it was, Babaji was giving the dega. And because they were giving the dega, the Bibi wanted it from their hands. And so it's quite interesting. Like, so the Bhavana was always there in the Sangat. And like even people in our family, like Munne, they met Babaji once. But till the day they died, they did Satabani Danitanem. They might have drank and ate, but they done Satabani Danitanem. So when on the first Barsi, what me and Hardeep Singh couldn't understand, and then we realised thinking about it, all these people were affected by Babaji and given something. So they all came, and obviously time and things erodes whatever, but they were all influenced by Babaji, and then a lot of other Gursikhs around us and our peers at the time, they all really regret now to this day that they never did Sangat of Babaji. They missed the opportunity. And one of the questions someone sent in, we'll do this now as well, and then we'll finish. One of the questions someone sent in is, why you? And the question was, why did I get Sangat of Baba Thakur Singh? And Bhai Harjinder Singh Sangha was like towards the end their main Gurvi for a good 5-6 years.
Yeah.
To the extent that Babaji said to Sangha, look, Menu na Shaddi Hon. Towards the end as well. Because things happen in Seva.
Yeah.
But Sangha, he on Nibhaya Bachan to the end. And Sangha's still very close to me. Yeah. And I went to see him a good few years ago now in Canada. And Sangha said to me, he goes, Harjinder Singh, he goes, Babaji the Thanu Melna Aise. Thanu Sangha Dena Aise. I was like, because I never, you never comprehend these things or think about them, And I was like, what are you going on about, Sangha? He goes, look, you, Hardeep Singh and some of the other Singhs. He goes, they came for you. They only came to the UK for you, lot. That's not what you're going on about. He goes, look, they came to give you Sangat, their Sangat,
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's Pura Bakaram Ankarja Pragate, Petio Purkaras Veragi, So when you have Pura Karam, when your Karam are really high, good fortune, then you meet people who are Rasak, which means they're imbued in God's colour.
Yeah.
And they're detached from the Rasak Beragi, So they're perfect beings, So when your Karam awaken in perfection, then you meet those people.
Of course you do, yeah.
That's twofold. That might be in a human form of a sadhu, but that's also us getting Guru Granth Sahib as our Guru. And getting Sangat and Dekan Amrit and things like that. So it's not to say if you've not had this, you still have it in Guru Sahib.
Yeah, of course.
And Guru Sikhs as well, who they start hearing Guru Granth Sahib talk to them. Forget about having a hukamnama. They actually hear a voice from Guru Granth Sahib. So the Bhavna can fulfill what you want. But we don't have that Bhavna in Guru Granth Sahib because we're human beings.
Of course, yeah.
So we believe in a human a lot faster because we can see it, But if you have that Bhavna, you will hear Guru Granth Sahib. That's all by doing these things, sort of philosophy, But still, even the Sikhs in the Jatha, they still attach themselves to human beings a lot as well. But to fulfill that philosophy is really grand, So it's not to denounce this, But in terms of Babaji, so we got that Sangat because it was our time. But then we should not waste the time. Like now, it's been 17 years and I look at myself, I'm going to be 44 in a few weeks. And I get depressed because I'm like, मैं पूरे साधुओं दी संगत कीती वो भी 10 साधु Baba Ji is one of them, है पूरा ब्रह्म ज्ञानी 3 I had ये भगवान जी संत लहर सिंह मैंने तो 10 मिले किसी ने तो लॉटरी एक निकली साढ़े तो 10 निकली you know what I mean? And then for not still fulfill that mission of being Brahm Gyan or Puranta, it's like, what are you doing? So for us being lucky, we're also bad for not fulfilling that. So even the Gursikh, 4 o'clock wake up, something else with you. Is he doing it? I don't know. He's one of my friends, but I don't know if he's doing it. Do you get what I mean? So that's down to us, in terms of fulfilling the bhajan. And someone else also said, like, what would you say to the Sangat of the UK? Are they fulfilling Babaji's bhajan? Are they living to those bhajan? One, I don't know all that Sangat.
Well, everybody will know themselves.
So that's personal to them. But again, it goes to that thing, what you were saying at the start, which is, what's the most prominent bhajan? The most prominent bhajan is Kamaya Sikhi and Bani Paro. That is the bhajan. There is no other second bhajan. That is Babaji's life. And I reflected in how they did Seva, Sant Gurbat Singh, Sant Kartar Singh, Sant Janal Singh. Throughout their whole life, it was Bani and Seva. There was nothing else. There's no Tiji Gala. And taking a stance through that Bani, their job.
That's amazing. Yeah, you know what? If I had another couple of hours, I'd carry on with you, but I know you're busy as well. So I'm going to wrap it up there. But I know the Barsi's coming in a couple of days. I'm sure whoever listens to this, it will promote further questions and conversations that they want to have with you. So I think the Barsi, you're going to be busy this year.
I'll be hiding.
No, you won't be hiding. But no, Bhai Harjinder Singh, I just want to say thank you very much and just enlightening us on something of Babaji's life that a lot of people want to have heard, especially now with the millennials and social media. A lot of these people want to even have darshan of Babaji. You know, I've been there, been with Babaji, I've done that, but I didn't have it to the degree that you had or many other Gursikhs had. And I know how impactful that was. And I think your words are going to be impactful on those people as well. But that's it. I just want to leave that there. I just want to thank you for your time. And I hope those people who are listening to this take the information that you've given and look forward to the Barsi and look forward to learning more about Baba Thakur Singh's life through the prachariks that will be there.
So the Barsi is 22nd of December to the 24th, so those are the dates worldwide that people do the Barsi. And some people might do it later because they've got their bookings and things, but it's 22nd to the 24th. And again, like Cam said, we did it. Well, I personally pushed to do this because it's been 17 years and a lot of people, they won't read the books or the publications that do exist on the internet, and they've got no inkling of what Babaji did. And it's been like a political assassination over the internet over the last 15 years by certain factions in the comedy.
There's been a character assassination constantly.
Yeah.
And that was during the time Bob... I remember 98, 99 when Bob G were here. I remember then there was... in 2000, I was like a paparazzi when Bob G came and I was taking photos of him in Leicester and all sorts. But you had people then character assassinating them, and I think it's about right that you give a story that balances that view and the truth on it, because you're getting negative propaganda without anybody saying the truth.
Yeah.
Well,
Bulldog the Kema.
no problem. Why would
you call Katha? Why would you give it?